Hello, this is Nicole again with the Josh Vernon Group at Keller Williams Realty. I hope all is well with you on today. Wanted to come to you and talk a little bit about how to submit the most competitive offer for the property that you are looking to purchase. You're out looking, you found the property that you say is yours. Now you are ready to submit an offer, but you need to understand what is the best strategy. What do you need to do to make sure that your offer stands out amongst the other offers that the seller may receive for the purchase of their home? So to be completely honest, you need to just make sure that you understand that you are not the only one that's looking at this particular property and wanting to submit an offer to purchase. So when you have that in mind, then it makes you think a little bit differently to where you're like, okay, I need to make sure that the offer I submit is the best offer that I can submit. So the first thing is pre-approval. You want to make sure that you have been fully pre-approved by a mortgage lender, okay? You don't want to look at homes before pre-approval. You certainly don't want to go into the offer phase with submitting an offer without first obtaining full pre-approval. In this market, sellers expect it. It's an expectation that offers that they receive will come with pre-approval letters from buyers. So if you're not pre-approved, go ahead and get pre-approved first before thinking about submitting an offer. Number two, understanding the market data. What is the market saying? What type of market are you buying into as a buyer? Are you buying into a buyer's market? Or are you buying into a seller's market? This will greatly influence the strategy that you use when submitting an offer. If it's a buyer's market, this just means that there are a number of options for buyers available. If one option doesn't work, you can go to a different option. So buyers have more leverage in this market, more negotiating power in this market. You have more wiggle room when it comes to everything in the contract. When it comes to the offer price, when it comes to the earnest money, closing date, request for closing costs, you just have more leverage because buyers have so many opportunities. Sellers are just like, okay, we just want to offer to review. So remember that you have more leverage, more negotiating power in a buyer's market. But you need to understand also the details of the market data, okay? What have homes sold for within the last 6 months that are comparable to the home that I am purchasing? And when I say comparable, similar bathroom count, similar square footage. Is it located in the same area? You want to make sure that you're looking within that same area, okay? So the features have to be similar, and the sales have to have occurred within at least the last 6 months. That's going to give you the best gauge of what the market price is or what the market value is for that particular home that you are looking at submitting an offer for. And then submitting your offer based on that market data. Okay. Now, our goal and our job as a realtor is to make sure that we provide you with the information, with the market information, interpreting the market information so that you as the buyer can make the best informed decision. We're not going to tell you what to offer for. We're going to discuss what the market is doing. We're going to make sure that you are aware of where the market is trending. And we are going to present options, but it's ultimately up to you as the buyer to decide on the details, okay, to make that final decision. So if we talk about the market of a seller's market, this is going to require a different strategy than a buyer's market. Remember, we said in a buyer's market, there are a number of options for buyers. So buyers have more negotiating power, more leverage. And a seller's market is different. A seller's market means that there are so many buyers looking to buy into an area, but only a small number of homes available. There's certainly not enough homes to meet the demand of the buyers. So this market is very competitive for buyers. Buyers don't have a lot of negotiating power in the seller's market, nor do they have a lot of leverage in the seller's market, okay? So when you're thinking about submitting an offer to purchase a home, you don't have a lot of wiggle room when it comes to the offer price. You really need to go in at the list price or above the list price, unless it's just so outrageous with the list price that it just doesn't make sense. And then at that point, you have to consider, how bad do I want this property? Or do I want to move on to another location, another area, another home? So as you can see, understanding that market data is very important to determining what type of strategy you need to implement with your particular offer. Okay, not a lot of wiggle room, again, like I said, for a seller's market. So you can't use the same strategy as far as submitting an offer is concerned in a seller's market as you would in a buyer's market, but both require pre-approval. You just want to make sure that you're pre-approved before you start submitting offers in any type of market. Okay, now we talk a little bit more about a seller's market, this very competitive market. What can you do to stand out a little bit more with your offer? Well, of course, the first thing is the price, going in at the list price or above the list price. The next thing is flexibility. Can you be flexible on closing dates? Understanding what the sellers may be looking for. It's always good for your realtor to reach out to the seller's agent and to get an understanding if there's anything in particular that the sellers are looking for, if they need flexibility with the closing date, or if there are other things that the sellers are looking for in particular. Because some agents will tell you, like, yeah, the seller needs this, or the seller needs that, or the seller is looking to do this and that, and then you can pretty much align your offer to meet the expectations of the seller. It's, like I said, as long as it's just not outrageous. Okay, so being flexible on the closing date, not asking for closing costs or asking for a minimal amount of closing costs. Okay, also earnest money. Earnest money is typically 1% of the purchase price. It's not written in stone, but it's customary. Okay, so with the earnest money, can you increase the earnest money? Can you go above that 1%? And then understand with the earnest money, this money is not held with the sellers at all. It's not put into their bank account. It's actually either held with the title company, the closing company, or the brokerage. And it is actually applied to your closing costs at closing. So you don't lose anything out on increasing that earnest money unless you default on your end on the contract. So increasing that earnest money amount can position you stronger as well, because again, that's telling the sellers that you are just as invested and even more invested in the purchase as they are in the sale of the property as well. So these are just a few things to consider. Of course, you have your contingencies, whether you're in a buyer's market or seller's market, of things that have to happen before a home can close, such as the appraisal if you're financing the home, your wood infestation report if you're financing to make sure that there are no termites, as well as a home inspection. Although it's not required, remember in Alabama, since we're caveat emptor, it is up to you as the buyer to discover any defects. So we normally say that these are non-negotiables. You want to make sure you have your home inspections. You have to have your appraisal, your wood infestation report, especially if you're financing. But when it comes to the home inspection and repairs that you may receive, or repair recommendations from the home inspector, really narrowing down that list. Don't go in and present the whole home inspection report to the seller to fix, especially if you're in a seller's market, because that's just not going to fly. You want to make a priority list of what's most important, and then present a small list of repairs to the seller. But these are just a few things that you can consider when you are submitting offers to make sure that your offer stands out amongst other offers that the seller may have, especially in a seller's market. Just remember to be pre-approved, the first thing that is of most importance, and then understanding again that market data if you're in a buyer's market or seller's market, and different strategies that you need to use based on the market that you're in. Buyer's market, more negotiating power, more leverage. You have more negotiating power around the offer price and just other terms of the contract. But in a seller's market, you don't have a lot of negotiating power because there are just not enough options for buyers. So you need to either go in at the list price or above it. Think about if you can increase your earnest money. Think about not asking the sellers to cover any closing costs or a minimal amount of closing costs, and just really being strategic with how you're moving in a seller's market so that you can be competitive on the front end with submitting your offer. So these are just a few tips. Of course, there can be more detail as well, but if you are currently in the market to purchase a home and you are looking to speak with a realtor, then connect with me. Direct message me, comment below. I would love to work with you. I'm actually accepting new clients now. We can create a strategy to get you pre-approved and hopefully get you a home purchase before the ending of this year or into next year. And if you are a seller as well and you're thinking about listing your home, connect with me as well, and we can strategize on how we can present your home and get your home sold for the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of hassle as well. So again, comment below if you are interested or need agency representation. Feel free to share this video as well. And again, my name is Nicole with the Josh Vernon Group at Keller Williams Realty. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.